Okay, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. We're with the executive producer of the show, Huck. She's demanded a lot of time off. That's why she hasn't been here in the last couple weeks, but she's been in the next room hollering directions, bellowing directions. Great Pyrenees, interesting point. They love to scratch, if you scratch their head around their eyes and the top of their head, they love that. Huh, yes, you good girl. And under the chin. Oh, daddy. Oh, daddy, yes. Okay. Well, we got to get on to the show because we got a lot of things to do today. And we're going to do it. So, for the people that haven't been around for a while, I'm going to let you give you some insight. For the people who have, it's going to kind of be a return trip. When I first started to get into this, missing people, I tried to find a way to quickly explain it to the viewers and the readers of my books how unusual this was. And because I was a parent and I saw these extraordinary distances that kids were traveling, I thought to myself, well, if the parents read my books, they're going to get this. And I had a lot of support from that end saying, Dave, go with that. So I did. I had a lot of kickback from people who aren't parents saying, oh yeah, no, kids could do that. And then other parents would say, oh, my kid could do that. Okay, well, we're going to go through some statistics that are given to search and rescue personnel through the manuals that they study. And then I'm going to give you 3 cases of missing kids that exemplify how unusual what I'm talking about. And I'm sorry if you don't think it's unusual, or if you think your child could do it, but I'm saying that 99.99999% of the kids in the world could not accomplish what we're going to talk about today. So, the first case, New Mexico. A double disappearance. 2 kids. And back in 1907, they didn't give the first names of kids most of the time. So the last name of the first one is Gilletti, and the second one is Guileni, Italian. Gilletti was 6 years old, and Guileni was 5 years old. Both went missing on the same day, July 23rd, 1907. This is in an area called Cerrillos, New Mexico, kind of south of Santa Fe. And Madrid and Cerrillos are almost like twin cities up on this mountain, and it's a coal mining city. And at that time, the coal mine was going hard. So here's Santa Fe, and here's Cerrillos. And this is the area that the kids went missing in. Kind of get a feeling for it. Now, the men worked in the Madrid coal mine. If you're ever in this area, I recommend going up to these ghost towns because they're fascinating. I went there several years ago, and a lot of what they had then is still up. It's amazing. I wouldn't go during the summer because it's blazing hot. And July 22nd, when these boys disappeared, it was blazing hot. The mine had about 300 employees, and the 2 cities had probably 200 other people living in it. July 22nd, boys were friends. They're playing at one of the parents' house out in front. They go to the backyard. Mom goes out, checks on them. A few minutes later, she said, quote, "Suddenly noticed they were exceptionally quiet, and I went to check on them." That's the quote. She goes out to the backyard. They're not there. She looks around, walks around the side, goes to the front yard, and she's looking in the dirt like a smart lady, and she notices the tracks are going out toward the front yard, and then they just stop. They stop at where there's traffic going by the front of the house. She runs around, gets other neighbors, and they start looking all over their little city for where the boys could be. Remember, they're together. Well, mothers searched the neighborhood. They got other families. And then the article said that an alarm went out. Now, whether the city had a real alarm, like a fire alarm or a fire bell, I don't know. But they said that hundreds of people by that first night, July 22nd, were in the city searching for the kids and then searching the hillside in the surrounding area where there are trails. They didn't find anything, but they went through the whole night nonstop looking at trails, carrying lanterns. Now, I'm telling you right now, a 5 and a 6-year-old boy should have found him at this point, no doubt. July 23rd, the next day, the county sheriff was a man named Clausen out of Santa Fe, and he was notified by telegram that he was needed about a couple missing kids, and he had 2 bloodhounds, and he got into that city, Cerrillos, at about 6 p.m. that night. Well, as the people were searching, at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, that afternoon, Gilletti, the 6-year-old boy, was located, quote unquote, emaciated condition, thirsty and hungry, and nearly dead. A miner named Dick Green found him about 3 miles above Cerrillos, up the mountain. Now, kids do go uphill, there's no doubt about it. 90, 100-degree weather, hard for me to understand that. So, 4 to 6-year-old child, according to search and rescue manuals, should be found in a dry climate 95% of the time at 2.3 miles or less. Now, if it's a dry climate and it's hilly, believe it or not, it goes to 5 miles or less. So he's within that range. Now, this mountain is pretty barren. You can see all over it. Parts of it have a lot of trees. Most of it doesn't. Well, by now, you got the sheriff there with his canines. You have one boy found. Common sense would tell you, okay, let's focus our efforts on that area where we found the first boy. When they asked the first boy where his friend might be, he didn't say anything. He didn't know. Well, the Guileni boy, his parents posted a $50 reward, anyone who finds their son. And that next day, July 24th, they searched for 12 hours from morning till dusk. They found nothing. The mountain was combed. The area around the first boy that was found, it was just completely combed. Nothing. July 25th, the father of that second boy, still not found, raised the reward to $200, an ungodly figure for 1907. Now, at this point, all of the mines had closed. They had as many as 500 searchers on the mountain searching different areas. They broke it up. And on July 25th, they found nothing, and they were feeling defeated, and they didn't believe at this point that the boy would be found. And as is typical, very typical in these kind of searches, talk started to center around, well, maybe the boy's kidnapped. There was even talk of a mafia association. You know, these were Italian families and miners. And I think everyone felt at this point, all the writing showed that the boy would be dead because of the heat, because it had been so long. July 26th. Mine's still closed. Everyone's out looking. A man named Charles Charing, a miner, is on Estes Mountain near the end of the day, 4 o'clock. He's tired. He's walking on a dirt road way up in the mountains. And he sees a boy face down on the dirt road. He's barefoot. He's not moving. Charles picks up the boy. He thinks he's alive. And he runs as fast as he can with this boy down the mountain. Draws some help, and he gets a ride back to the family. He lived. Unbelievably, he lived. He was extremely dehydrated. He couldn't remember anything. He didn't talk for several days, but he pulled through. A couple things about this case. The bloodhounds didn't find either boy, and that's a key thing. Both cases, tracks did not find the boys. One thing that really got me was the mom's statement. She suddenly noticed how quiet it got. In a lot of missing persons cases, people describe this like a cone of silence. No more sounds, no more birds, no more nothing. Not saying that that's related, but I'm saying that that's a pretty unusual statement. Now, both those boys survived, which is a miracle in that heat, in that area. And the people that found the Guileni boy, the headline stated that he had wandered 25 miles from where he was last seen. 25 miles for a 5-year-old. And he was gone 3.5 days. So that's like 6 miles a day in extreme heat. Because I told you before, kids don't walk at night. And that's barefoot. You believe that? Because do you know how hot that ground is when it's 90 and 100 degrees out? This boy's supposedly walking around 100 degree heat, 90 degree heat. Believable? I know there's going to be somebody saying, oh yeah, my kid could do that. All right. Uphill, that distance. Sorry, that dog don't hunt. So, SAR manuals, 4 to 6 years old. Survivability for a 4 to 6 year old. If they're gone less than 24 hours, the manuals say survivability is 98%. Greater than 24 hours, 38%. Greater than 48 hours, 33%. And according to the manual I have, greater than 72 hours, 0%. A lot of things about these search and rescue manuals don't line up with any of my research. And they know it. They know it. Because I get a lot of questions from search and rescue people saying, well, how can that be? It's got to be at least 1% because Paulides talks about it. I'm just giving you facts. Now, somebody who disappears in the wilderness, here's the breakdown. If they're found uninjured 90% of the time. Injured 4%. Fatality associated 4%. No trace, never found 2%. Again, like I've said, what they say and what I found are two different things. There's never anything in any search and rescue manual about the extreme distances I've covered in my cases and in my books. There's a couple pages in my books where I have 2 pages where kids have gone phenomenal distances. Nobody wants to address this. Nobody even wants to acknowledge it, which I think is wrong, because I think some people could be surviving today if search and rescue had adjusted their parameters slightly. Just saying. Now, the next two cases will blow your socks off. First one, Australia. A young boy named Thomas Williams, 6 years old, went missing August 28, 1925. He was visiting a city named Muchia. So people always like to correct the pronunciation. Oh no, you say it this way. Oh no, you say it that way. I don't care how you say it. Everyone knows what I mean. Muchea, Australia. He was with his family, vacationing. That city is just north of Perth, on the far western side of Australia. Here's Perth. Here's the city he was at. Got it? Now, I stated before that western side of Australia has almost no missing 411 cases. Many on the East Coast, West Coast, not many. So, late that night, the family got friends. They're all searching for this boy. They're not finding him. They contact the police. Police arrive, and they start searching formally the next day, August 29th. It was very well organized. They requested Aboriginal trackers. They were responding. They couldn't find any tracks. They didn't find anything. August 30th. Tracks found that people believed were Thomas's. They couldn't confirm it. But they followed those tracks through the dirt, 6.5 miles, and then lost them in grass. That is unusual for Aboriginal trackers to lose a track. I'm just saying. Because I know how good they are, and they're outstanding. They don't lose tracks very often. So they had 2 full days in of 12-hour days. It was very cold. And August 31st rolls around. They find Thomas face down in thick grass, alive. Again, phenomenal. They give him water. They take him to a doctor. The doctor gives him a stimulant. And he starts to come back around. The region that he was found in was described as thick vegetation with rolling hills, no mountains. He was immediately taken to the parents, and he lived. Article stated that Thomas was found 45 miles away. 45 miles. Now, I'm not good at math, but I'll do this. He was gone about 3 days. That's 15 miles a day. I can almost guarantee that 90% of you couldn't walk 15 miles per day. Yet we are meant to believe that a 6-year-old little boy made his way through thick vegetation, no water, at 15 miles a day. I'm sorry, that's a case where the dogs don't hunt again. You're not going to make me believe it. And then why would the trackers lose his tracks? But let me explain something. This is your house. This is where you're found, say 10 miles away. Les Stroud has always told me, nobody walks a straight line from here to here. The distance that you travel when you're eventually found is 2 to 3 times the distance on a straight line. Remember that. When I found these cases, I was dumbfounded because the next case happened 6 years after Thomas's case, also in Australia. Remember this, 6 years later, So Thomas is found August 31st, 1925. August 31st, 1931, another boy disappears. This time 4 years old. A boy named Jimmy Shields. Now, stop for a second. I've stated hundreds of times. If I put a cluster of missing people and 10, 4, 5, and 6-year-old little boys disappear in this cluster within 2 or 3 years, even the dumbest person living in that area is going to say, Houston, we have a problem. But if I spread it out by years, by a continent, no one's going to put it together, except me. Now, Australia is huge. We went from one coast, the west coast, where Thomas disappeared, and now we're at the southeast section of the country, above Melbourne. And Jimmy disappeared near a place called Mosgiel. There it is right there. Here's Melbourne. Many disappearances in this sector right here that I've worked. So, Thomas, 6 years old. August 28th, late in the afternoon, he wanders away from his house. Mom doesn't hear him leave. Nobody sees him. He's never done this before. They're visiting. They're at their home in Mosgiel. He wanders away. Parents gets friends. They start searching that first night. They go through the whole first night. Don't hear anything, don't see anything, and he doesn't respond. And there's another clue. When you're out searching, especially for a young child, you call them their name. Hey, it's okay. Your mom and dad sent you. We're here to we're here to find you, blah, blah. 90% of the time, you're going to get a response. Child's going to be found. Story over. But when you don't get a response, you got a problem. September 1st, that community responded. 200 searchers that next day. That's a lot. And this area was cold. It was described as extremely cold and frosty. But searchers bared it all, put in a 10-hour day, nothing. September 2nd, the police assisted in the search now, and they got 600 men. They were very concerned about searchers being warm enough and getting sick or getting frostbite. That's how cold it was. But they stayed with it. September 3rd, there was no sign of Jimmy. He'd never done this kind of thing before. Searchers were tiring, they were cold, and they believed they were looking for a body because they didn't believe he could live through the night. He didn't have warm clothing. It was looking very dismal. September 4th, 600 searchers now on scene, covering a 360-degree radius around the home, going out for miles, not finding anything. Now, I want you to have one more look at this. I get real close. See all this around here? That's all water. It's all water. It's like swampy water. Would I tell you about areas like that? They always have the most disappearances. I don't care if you're up on the mountain, you see hundreds of lakes, swampy area like that. I don't know what it is. But September 5th, hold on to your hat. Jimmy staggers into a boundary rider's hut. Remember we talked about boundary riders the other day? People that mend fences and things on giant ranches. And the hut is near a place called Cobar. There was a sheep herder there. And he described Jimmy as having torn lips and a green tongue. And the article said that Jimmy was smart enough to be eaten what's called crow's foot. It's a clover-like herb, and the article said it's 2 times the nutritional value of cabbage, and it makes your mouth green. He was found barefoot. The shepherd gave him some water, made sure he was warm, and then he knew the rancher was going to come by, turned him over to the rancher. The rancher knew that Jimmy was missing, and the rancher said that he would drive him home. When the rancher was later interviewed, it's pretty funny. He said, Jimmy was phenomenally awake and cognizant of what's going on. And when I was driving him home, he asked if he could drive. It's Australia. And he asked for his mommy. And he says, hey, I'm taking you to your mommy. Don't worry. And he was eventually dropped off at his parents' house in phenomenally good condition. Figure that one out. Now, here's the kicker. When he showed up at that boundary hut, articles stated that he had traveled 45 miles. He was gone for 5 days. Doing the math, that's 9 miles a day for a 4-year-old. If I took you guys out in the bush and hiked you for 9 miles, the next day you'd be sore and tired. And I said, yeah, you're going to do this 5 days straight. You'd say, Paulides, you're crazy. But yet we think a little 4-year-old did that. Really? In bare feet? Really? Remember what Wikipedia said about the articles I cover and the people I cover. Nothing mysterious about it. It's all completely normal. Oh, really? Now you can kind of understand why I get mad. Now, if you think your child at 4-year-olds could do that, you need to be training them for the Olympics. I'm not kidding you. Get that kid a good pair of shoes and get him on the track every day, because that is some phenomenal distance. Now, these only add to the ones I've written about in the book, because these are not in any of the books I've written. These are new cases we found. And I want this to settle in with you so you don't think, oh, this is 1 in a million. No. I probably have documented 60 of these cases like this. 2-year-old going 9 miles over 2 mountain ranges. I covered that one in the first movie, Missing 411. That's right. In fact, Les Stroud tried to replicate that. If you've watched it, you know what I'm talking about. So, please share this video. I thank you for being here. I appreciate you going the extra distance to be kind. And some of you have sent me your stories. I read every one. I'm proud of you guys. Very proud. And you know what? I could sense the pride in you when you wrote to me about what you did. It does make you feel better to help people. The more we do that, the more understanding, the more compassion, and the more empathy we have. So until we meet again, light us out.